Hi, welcome back to Gathering Grounds Gaming, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I built some epic wargaming terrain using only foam core. So the reason why I want to do this video today is I get lots of people so far asking me like what materials do I use, where do I get my foam from, and a lot of people also saying that sheets of foam is still quite expensive, which it is because the amount that you need to normally buy, you normally have to buy at least 5 sheets, which can be £25 up. And actually also people saying it's hard to get hold of. So today I want to show you that you can make some really great wargaming terrain using foam core. So foam core is basically, it's foam with thick paper on either side. Now you can pick this up in literally an A4 sheet. You can buy this from, if you've got like a hobby craft, you can buy this in packs of 4 for like 12 quid. So it's really accessible. And also what the great thing about it is you can cut it with a Stanley knife. It glues really well with PVA, hot glue. You can paint it, you can texture it. It's really, really versatile in terms of that. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to do 2 pieces of terrain made, literally the structure of it is just going to be foam core. So I'm going to do a bigger piece which is going to be like a shrine with some steps. I'm going to show you how to make some little basic pillars, and then I'm going to have another smaller piece which is going to be some steps going up to an archway, a broken archway. I'm going to show you how you can layer the board to do really nice sort of archway architecture. Super simple but really, really effective. And then I'm going to show you how I paint it, how I texture it, just like I normally do, realistic and ready for the table. So as I say, we'll jump down onto the pad, we'll get some sketches and we'll get moving. Okay, so I'm going to call this Shrine and Broken Arch Scatter. Okay, so a couple of key things. So they're both pieces are going to be made of foam core. The only exception is I might mount them on some MDF just because I have it, but you can base it on some foam core. I'm just doing it for longevity rather than the fact that you need to. So they're literally, the actual pieces themselves are going to be made all from foam core. So I want there to be some steps on both. Again, apologies, I'm not an artist, mainly because I want to show you that you can actually create some really cool steps using foam core. I've done it on many a piece and it does actually work really well. I want there to be a ruined archway. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to show you that if you use layers of foam core, you can create depth using sort of smaller parts of foam core. So I'm going to show you that technique. There's going to be a circular shrine on this. So again, I'm going to bevel a circle of foam core. I'm going to use a CD for those of you who remember CDs to actually cut this, and I'm going to show you how to use, these are like rocks on both. I'm actually going to show you how if you cut up lots of different bits of foam core and then use some filler, you can actually create sort of like almost like rock faces. I'm going to show you how to do that technique as well, and I'm also, like the archways, I'm going to show you how to make some pillars using stacked foam core. So there's a few different bits in there. I am obviously going to use flocks and stuff like that because that's not, in my mind, included in actually the build. That's the decoration, but I am going to show you how to do that as well. But it is no different to what I normally show you. So the first, as I say, you've got the broken archway with steps, shrine with pillars with steps. So there's the piece. That I'm not going to do anything on the, don't need to do anything on the hot wire cutter, but let's start cutting some foam.
So the first thing we do is we're going to, most importantly, change our Stanley knife blade. So whether you're using a large or a small scalpel, make sure you got a fresh blade. And I've used a CD to draw around to create a nice circle, and I'm just going to cut that circle out and I'm going to bevel the edges of it, and that's going to be the surface of our shrine sort of platform that we're going to create. And as I say, get a nice bevel. It's with a new blade, you should be able to cut through this really easy. It's so easy to use. And the one thing you make sure is just tidy up as you go, because it gets really, really messy. So that's our platform. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to cut some strips, which to raise this platform up. So literally just measure how high you want this platform to be and then cut strips and you're just going to do like a cross on the back of your platform, and it's just going to basically support the actual platform, so you can start building up the landform around it and adding in the steps. And as I say, I chose for a couple of inches, and now I'm going to start cutting some strips, because I'm going to make the pillars that I'm going to put 3 pillars on this. So I'm just going to show you how to. It's super simple. Cut 3. That gives it some nice thickness, and you cut a nice slant to it, which will then create just some basic pillars. But I think they look really nice when they're painted. And now the next step is we're going to start looking at some steps. So if you get the steps in first, and then you can build the landform around them. And as I say, what we're going to do when we do the steps is we're going to just cut some strips, cut some squares, and then basically just using a standing knife to sort of like carve them into sort of like little slabs of stone that which are going to build up. So we're going to get all this glued in place now. And just position it where you think you want it. You want it to have a nice distance at the front, so you can run some steps up to it. And we want to sort of start building up some pieces of foam to create some nice sort of slopes. But I say, just get them squares cut first. Just cut the corners off so they're more like, and they have less of an edge on them, and then just map out just roughly where you want the steps to go. And you literally would just get some foam core and just place it where you think it would be. So you don't really have to do lots of planning. That's what's so good about this project. You can just sort of like eyeball it and add to it. It's quite easy to change because you can cut into it. I'm just figuring out how high I need it to be, so how many pieces of foam core I need. I'm just going to start gluing it in place. Just remember to cut the edges off. And the good thing about foam core is it takes texture quite nicely as well, and you can cut into it and create like little, cut little corners off and put little cracks in the stonework if you want to. I'm literally just using my standing knife just to create sort of like dips in the slabs as well. And there you go, that's the steps done. And we're just going to now sort of build up the landform around it. But I'm going to just create these pillars first. So I've literally just stacked 3 together. I've just cut an angle. I'm just going to glue 3 of them in place. One at the back, and then one on the other side as well. Might just need to cut into the platform slightly just to get it to fit, but that should be good. There you go. And what we'll do is we'll put some texture paste on these pillars to cover up the foam on the edges a bit later. There's your 3 pillars. So super simple, but really effective when you got them all painted. They look really cool. So now we're gonna the fun bit. We're gonna just start cutting up some foam board. Just basically start off by cutting some big strips. And then just cutting loads of shapes. As you can see here, I don't waste any foam. Just cut loads of different shapes. The great thing about this is if you do use foam core and you've got loads of like offcuts, just use the offcuts, because they're gonna get used. Just lots of different shapes, lots of different sizes as well. Not all big, because you're gonna need some of the small ones just to fit in the little gaps. But as I say, no real planning required. As you can see here, I'm just literally just chopping it up. So we're going to start with some of the bigger ones first. So you literally just figure out where you want the bottom of the lamb form to start. So I'm obviously building it around the steps, and you literally just play around with it, just picking bits up, figuring out where it fits. Don't plan too much, because you can end up doing this for hours, and then when you come to glue it back in, you're going to obviously take it all back off again. But just get a small idea, and you can see here I've started to do it, and create nice little steps up. So when you then come and put the texture paste in, it creates like a nice little landform going up to the steps, so it isn't just like a drop down onto the base below. And don't worry if there's a couple of little points, you can trim them off, or if you actually want some little pointy bits of stone sticking out, you can keep them. It all works. I'm just now getting a few smaller bits to go around the pillars, because I want the pillars obviously to be sort of engulfed in the landform as well, so like they were like dug into the ground. If you do want, you can do this slightly differently. If you don't want lots of like different shapes, you can just cut like 5 or 6 different layers of one big piece and just sort of like layer it up like that. But I quite like the idea of it there being lots of little different bits jutting out, because it creates like different textures when you then come to put it all in. So you can see here I've done most of the top. I'm probably just going to put a little bit in at the bottom, but it slopes down quite nicely. And you want to do that all the way round. There's going to be a bit of a drop at the back, but as I say, I'm just squeezing the last few bits in to take it up to the platform. Just sort of slide it underneath. There you go, that's that front side piece done. I'm just going to quickly whip through the other side. And that should be then, like I say, once you get in the rhythm of it, it doesn't take that long. But it's probably like the most time consuming bit, but it's super fun when you start to see it come alive. And the great thing is, if you're doing quite tall structures, you can create little platforms on the way up. I obviously weren't able to really show you that in this piece, but I was planning on doing a bigger castle build in a couple of months' time, which I'll use the same technique, and I can show you how to do little platforms on the way up the steps. Literally just dropping them in where they see fit. And that's that done. So you can see it's quite a nice little effect. And I'm going to do a little sigil on the top. Haven't figured out the picture yet, but I'll get that in when a bit later. So now we're going to move on to the broken archway. So what I'm going to start with is drawing out the actual archway for the top. So I'm going to use, this is a Shifting Lands window template, but you can use anything that you think looks nice as an archway. And I'm just going to test fit the height to make sure that the archway is big enough. And I always keep a little miniature close by. So I'm the first thing I'm going to do is going to cut the archway out, and I'm going to make 3 copies of this archway. And the first thing I'll do is I'm going to ruin it. So I'm going to basically cut it into 3 pieces. And that's the ruin part. That's how it will look when it's on the model. And I'm going to make 3 copies of this archway And I'm basically going to do a little technique where you create layers of the same shape, but you get smaller as you come out, and that'll create like a nice bit of like architecture. So the first thing is to do is I've got that first one, and I'm now going to just sort of trace out the shape of the arch. And it's going to be like this, where you sandwich it, so it's going to be 3 layers. I don't know if I capture it all really well in this footage, but basically I'm just tracing out the same archway shape and then just making each one a little bit smaller every time, so I can then stack them up, and it creates almost like a little, like a rounded front of the archway. You'll see a bit clearer when I put it all together, but basically that's the effect you want to go for using the thickness of the foam board. And then you put texture paste over the top, and it creates like a really nice looking pillar. So then I'm going to trace this one onto another piece. And this is a great way to use your offcuts because they don't take a lot of foam board to do this. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because you are going to bevel the edges of each cut, and then you're going to texture it anyway, and it's meant to look ruined, so it's going to look perfectly fine. It's a great way to sort of layer up when you're using foam board, just to create some nice little architectural features. There you go, so that one sits on the top, and as you can see it's just a little bit smaller than the original. I'm just going to bevel the edges of it. And I'll do this once more on top of that one, and then I'll do the same on the other side of the archway, so it's not flat on the back of it. There you go. They're the 3 pieces put together. So that's the first half of it, and as you can see it creates a nice little slope down, and I'll do this on both sides. And I'll put some brickwork just here, so it looks like there was a wall attached to the archway. And yeah, so that'll look, I think that'll create a nice little effect. And as you can see, I've now done the whole archway, and I've done the middle piece as well, which I can use as a little piece of rubble. So that'll go on one side, and then that I can glue that little bit of rubble down just in the middle, so creates a nice little thing to sort of texture up. So yeah, it's looking good, and I'll glue that into place. So I'm just going to add the brickwork in. I should have done this before I actually added the layered archway, but I'm just going to basically just eyeball it a little bit. I'm just going to break a bit more off so it looks a little bit ruined, but just going to eyeball some very small bricks on both sides, and then I'll open up the cuts with a pencil, and this will look really good when it's painted. So just open up the gaps. It's important to do this because otherwise when you add the paint to it, the cuts you've made will just seal back up, and you'll be like you've not carved into it at all. And there you go. Done that on both sides, and that creates a nice bit of detail. The little bits that when you look at the piece, you're not just looking at the archway, you're looking at the little details that you've added. And now I'm going to just basically eyeball a little plinth platform for this to sit on. and for the steps to go up to it. I'm probably going to have it dropping away a lot at the back, but I'm going to say want the steps to run up to it at the front. So there's no real shape to this, just going to add it in, and you can see I'm going to glue those into place, and then what we'll do is we'll raise that up like we did the shrine, probably a little bit higher because it's going to be like the centerpiece. There we go, as like before, we've added the steps in, and I'm now just sort of like doing the lamb form. You've seen it all before, so I'm not going to show you a lot of this in big detail. It's exactly the same technique. Maybe I made the steps a little bit more wiggly, so it's a little bit more of like a centerpiece. So the stairs are not straight, but again, just add the foam in to create the lamb form however you want. You could make this piece a little bit wider and a bit bigger, and have like little platforms on the way up, but I just thought this would be a nice little nice little side piece to put it on a table somewhere. And there you go. So that's the majority of that done, but you can see again the lamb form looks quite nice. It does create a nice centerpiece there. So now I'm going to do the earth sigil on this shrine. So I just looked up a picture. The sculpting is not going to be amazing. I'm not an artist, so I've just sort of eyeballed a triangle between the 3 pillars. I realised afterwards it's not the straightest, but hey, it's been carved in stone. And as I say, you can add whatever you want. I decided to do the earth sigil on this one. It could be anything you want. I think I did it a while ago with like the evil eye, which looked really interesting. So now this is literally filler mixed with brown black paint and PVA. It creates like a paste, and you're just going to use this like I do with my other builds, just to blend. So this is the important bit. You blend the foam board into each other, and it creates a nice little lamb form. Creates like a nice little slope going up to the shrine on the edges. Just means that you can use the steps, or someone can run up the side. You know, it's really good little combat options. It's a nice bit of elevation there, and you can be fighting down the side of the hill and stuff like that. So I just think it's really cool. And you can then even make this piece on like a sculpted hill to give it a bit more height if you wanted to. Just gives it lots of different options. And also I'm just using my knife here just to sort of flatten out some of like the stones, so they create like little platforms on the way up. Just going around the edges. There will be a bit of a drop off at the back, but that's fine. Just get that in there, and again just blend in the platform at the top. And that's that one done. Just sort of tidying up the steps so they all sort of like look really prominent on the piece. I've just done the same with the archway, just as I say, just getting those steps nice and prominent, and getting all the connections on the archway and that covered up so they all blends in nicely. And this is where the fun bit. So it's going to paint it. So all of the anything that's going to be stone, I've done in a nice dark black. This is black mixed with PVA just to give it an extra layer of sealant. And the same with the shrine. Cover up all that white and all that paste. And any brown, just do it in brown, or you can do it in green. Some people like to do sort of all sort of like earth and that in a green rather than a brown, but I like the brown because it's just the colour I prefer. So now it's all dry, I'm going to start doing some of the stonework. So this is just a very basic mid-grey, light grey, with basically the mid-grey is going to be like an overbrush, because you've already got the black. So the black sort of acts as the dark grey, if you know what I mean. So you don't need to do 3 layers. And just say nice amount, but leave some of the black in the corners and stuff like that to give them nice shades. And you can see this is where all the steps and that start to pop out. Get all the archway in there as well. Be careful when you do the archway, because obviously it's only hot glued in. At this point, it could probably still break off. And I think I broke it off. I'll show you. I think I actually break it off accidentally. But you can see here I've covered all of them in mid-grey and light grey. and you can really see those steps and platforms really sort of pop out. And now I'm covering it in a really, it's basically a brown ink wash. This is brown with a bit of black, some medium and water. You don't have to do this step. I just like to make it nice and murky. And then I'm just going to go over with a bigger paddle brush, the light grey again. And I add a bit of beige in at the end just to make it look a bit more earthy. And it does make a difference, so it goes over all the flat surfaces. If you don't use a big brush, you tend to get sort of streaks in the actual paint. So, and then I just add a little bit of titanium, so it's like a beige, just to basically lighten off that grey a bit. And I have actually peeled off some of the paint. You can see here, I didn't let it dry in between things, so it has peeled off, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to cover it with some stones and some flock later. So that's absolutely fine. And that I dry brushed too hard and I broke off the archway. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to hot glue it back in, touch up the paint, and then we'll cover it with flocks. So my flocks these are optional. This is going to be Forest Path by Geek Gaming, and this is Battle Zone Scatter, which I'm going to pour like all the different places. And the greens, I'm just basically going to do Geek Gaming, foam flocks, dark green, and mixed blend. If you want more information, drop me a comment below. And then I'm going to add, this is like brambles. So it's like bits of branch with brambles attached. I'm going to do this up the side of the archway, just up here, just to make it look all overgrown. I think it adds a bit of detail. You don't have to do that. But I've covered it in PVA, and I start with the Forest Path from Geek Gaming. As I say, I'm not getting paid to advertise that. This is just what I like to use. And this creates like something that is quite soily in colour, but it's got bits of static grass in it. And I drop that all around the piece. And then I mix it up with the Battle Zone Scatter, which I'm using now. So I blend them both together. The Battle Zone Scatter's got lots of big stones in it, lots of small stones, and little bits of turf. So it looks like when you scatter it on, it looks like little weeds and stuff like that. I've done it, so I'll go into a bit more detail in some of my other videos, but it's the same as what I normally use. I just go around the piece, adding it where I think the Battle Zone Scatter looks good on like the pathways where like stones have been kicked. And then to do the greenery, I start off with the dark green, but I don't cover the whole piece in it. I leave some little gaps because I'll then come back in with the lighter green blend colour to blend them both together, and it creates a nice tone. And because these are foam flocks, they're not sawdust, you get nice big blobs of foam in the as well, so it creates like little bushes. And I'd literally do the same technique on the bigger piece as well. So this is something I'm adding at the end. You don't have to do this. These are little autumn leaves. So I suddenly thought at the end it'd be nice to put some autumn leaves in there. And I'm going to seal it all. So the blue bottle is isopropanol, which breaks up the surface tension. And this is matte sealant, which is matte varnish, PVA and water. And these are all the pieces there. This is all the sealants done. And I'm just going to add some of that bramble in. If you want to see more detail about how I do some of these flocking techniques, I'm going to link a video in the top, which goes into a bit more detail. It'll be in the top corner. It's another one of my terrain builds, but I go into a lot more detail. And now the last thing, again optional, is just some grass turfs. These are from Toshima 1. I'll link them in the description, but basically you just add a couple in. I just add a couple in to sort of create some sort of nice long grass areas. But again, it's totally optional, but it does create a nice bit of detail at the end. And these are the pieces finished. I think they're nice, very Lord of the Ringsy, Dungeons and Dragons. Create some, as you can see, like some orcs coming up off the path, coming up the grass area. They look good on most boards. Age of Sigmar, Dungeons and Dragons. Hope you like them. Let me know if you use this technique. As I say, it's a technique I really enjoy using.
So I really enjoyed using this, and I hope it continues to show you that you don't need to spend lots of money and have lots of expensive tools to make really good looking epic wargaming terrain for whatever you want to use it for. Like, let's say I think this piece was one of the first sort of styled pieces that I actually made when I first made terrain. It was like probably about 8 years ago. It was a little small, like 6 inches by 6 inches, sort of square piece of terrain. I loved making it, and I loved revisiting it this time. And like with the layering as well, I really enjoyed doing the pillars on this, just sort of showing how if you use sort of multiple layers, actually you can have a really good effect. So I say I hope you took something from this video today. If you do like these types of videos, if I'd love it if you could subscribe to the channel, and there's lots of ways you can support me. And so if you go down in the description, you've got access to my Patreon. Starts at a couple of pounds a month and allows you just to see some of the videos a bit earlier, allows you to see some of the behind the scenes stuff when I've got time to do it. It's also, you've also got a link to my Etsy store where I actually sell products like this. Once I've made them, I do actually put them up for sale if people want to buy them. And there's also access as well if you just want to do like a one-off, like buy me a coffee just to say thanks for the video, or to sort of some continued support. Lots of different ways you can support me, but being here, watching the video, subscribing to the channel is just a great way as well to support me if that's all you can do. But that would be amazing. But like I said, I've got a couple of other videos which again want to use foam core just like I have today, but I'm going to throw in some coffee stirrers just for a little bit of variation. I'm going to show you how you can make some really great stylized ruined buildings for like Mordheim or any sort of like, you know, D&D. I'm going to show you that just using foam core and coffee stirrers, and with a bit of texture in, how you can make some really great structures. So watch out for that. That's coming up next week. But until the next time, I look forward to seeing you.